A heavy, solid iron door slams shut behind you. The noise is not merely a sound. It is a violent physical collision that vibrates through the damp stone floor and resonates deep inside your own teeth. The lock engages with a thick, echoing mechanical click. The air in this subterranean holding cell is heavy, suffocating, and aggressively stagnant. It smells of raw ammonia, boiled cabbage, harsh carbolic acid, and the deep, unmistakable scent of unwashed human despair. You are standing in the shadows, shivering violently in the damp draft, listening to the heavy footsteps of the orderlies walking away. Search deep into your own family records from the 19th century, and you will inevitably notice a terrifying, silent anomaly. There are massive, inexplicable holes in the census data, names that simply disappear from the ledgers from one decade to the next. People who entirely evaporate from the genealogical tree without a single death certificate, a gravestone, or a forwarding address. They did not travel west to start a new life. They did not change their identities. They were systematically, legally erased. In the 19th century, the medical and political establishment did not require a bullet or a hangman's noose to eliminate an unwanted citizen. They did not need to dump your body in the river. They only needed a steel-tipped pen and a bottle of black ink, a single signature confirming a vague psychiatric diagnosis, and you were immediately locked inside the sprawling, state-funded asylums. Your name was stripped away, replaced by a 3-digit number, and your very existence was quietly deleted from human history. If you have the Iron Constitution to survive a forensic audit of the 19th century psychiatric machine, hit the like button right now. It is the absolute price of admission to the restricted archives. We are about to observe exactly how a human being is legally reduced to a ghost. You stand in the freezing cell, believing the physical confinement is the highest form of punishment the state can inflict. You think the stone walls are the true instrument of your torture. That is your first massive biological deception. The bricks and the iron bars are merely the physical container. The actual instrument of your total destruction is sitting on a wooden desk 2 floors above you, waiting to be signed. Welcome to the year 1890. You are no longer a recognized citizen of the state. You are a highly profitable data point, trapped inside the golden, heavily funded cage of Victorian charity. The official narrative, eagerly accepted by the public and printed in the daily newspapers, paints the 19th century as an era of profound medical enlightenment. The government proudly constructs gigantic, imposing red brick sanctuaries and sprawling Gothic towers in the quiet countryside. They tell the public these massive structures are monuments to Christian compassion, built specifically to offer moral treatment and peaceful rest to the mentally fractured souls wandering the filthy industrial streets. They want society to view these institutions as hospitals. This is the great, overarching lie of the Victorian era. You are not standing inside a hospital. You are standing inside a bureaucratic processing plant designed for social cleansing. The state-run asylum was engineered to permanently warehouse the inconvenient byproducts of the Industrial Revolution. Look at the people being dragged through the admission doors beside you. They are not suffering from severe psychotic breaks. They are the unwanted. A rebellious wife who dared to publicly question her husband's financial decisions. A factory worker whose hand was crushed in a loom, rendering him unable to pay his mounting debts. An orphan who aged out of the workhouse. A woman experiencing the natural, hormonal shifts of menopause. The psychiatric system of 1890 does not require forensic evidence, brain scans, or a fair legal trial. It requires absolute social conformity. If you do not perfectly fit the rigid, mechanical mold of Victorian society, a physician in a tailored suit simply checks a box labeled moral insanity or hysterical agitation. 2 orderlies enter your holding cell. The brutal, mechanical process of bureaucratic desiccation begins the exact second they lay their hands on you. They do not speak to you. They strip you of your clothing. Your expensive silk dress or your heavy woolwork coat, the final. Physical proof of your life outside these walls is aggressively torn away, itemized on a piece of brown paper, and thrown directly into a basement incinerator. Your personal belongings are confiscated. The silver locket containing a photograph of your children, the letters from your mother, your wedding ring, they are locked in a brass box, never to be seen again. They force you onto a wooden stool and pour freezing water over your head, scrubbing your skin raw with harsh lye soap to purify the diseases of the street. A nurse approaches with heavy iron shears. She cuts your hair down to the scalp, stripping away your vanity and your individuality in a matter of seconds. They force a coarse, unwashed, pale striped canvas smock over your head. The fabric is cheap, identical to the thousands of other smocks in the building, specifically designed to render you completely genderless and entirely anonymous. You are marched into the chief alienist's office. He sits behind a massive oak desk, surrounded by towering stacks of manila folders tied with heavy twine. He does not look at your face. He does not ask how you feel. He looks down at a heavy, leather-bound admission ledger. He dips his steel pen into the inkwell. With a single fluid motion, he crosses a heavy black line directly through your legal name. In the margin, he writes, "Patient number 742. You cease to exist as a human entity. You are no longer a mother, a father, a worker, or a citizen. You are simply number 742. But the loss of your name is merely the prologue to the horror. The real treachery occurs when you are finally pushed into the main ward, where the system actively works to destroy the very sanity you are desperately trying to prove you still possess. You are shoved through a set of heavy wooden double doors into the primary holding ward. It is a long, cavernous, echoing hall of peeling lead paint and damp stone. The overcrowding is immediately, suffocatingly apparent. The asylum was built to hold 200 patients. It currently houses over 800. Beds are crammed into the hallways, touching end to end. The noise is a constant, grating physical force. You are surrounded by the sounds of genuine human despair, incessant weeping, frantic rocking, the scratching of fingernails against the plaster, and the nonsensical screaming of patients suffering from late-stage syphilitic paresis. You panic. It is a completely rational, highly logical human response to being locked in a nightmare. You run to the heavy iron bars covering the windows. You grab them, shaking them frantically. You scream to the orderlies walking past. You yell that there has been a terrible administrative mistake. You demand to see a magistrate. You demand writing paper to contact your family or your lawyer. You articulate your arguments with perfect, crystal clear logic. This is the ultimate psychological trap of the Victorian asylum. The alienist stands at the end of the hall, observing you with a cold, clinical detachment. He does not see a sane, rational citizen fighting for their illegal captivity. He sees a textbook manifestation of aggressive mania. The harder you fight to prove your sanity, the more aggressively you validate his initial, fabricated diagnosis. Your completely rational panic is immediately weaponized against you. When you refuse to sit quietly, the orderlies return. You are dragged into the isolation wing. You are thrown into a primitive, windowless padded cell. The door locks. You are left in absolute, pitch-black darkness. There is no sound. There is no light. There is no human contact. You are fed a meager ration of stale bread and water slid through a small slot at the bottom of the door once a day. The human brain is a highly complex sensory processor. When it is completely deprived of external stimuli for days on end, it begins to actively manufacture its own. The sensory deprivation physically alters your neurochemistry. You begin to hear faint whispering in the dark corners of the cell. You see shifting, geometric shadows moving across the back of your eyelids. You begin to talk to yourself just to hear a human voice. By the time the orderlies finally open the door 2 weeks later, you are crouching in the corner, trembling, your eyes wide and vacant, muttering incoherently to people who are not in the room. The system did not admit a mad person. The system admitted a sane citizen and mechanically, methodically broke their mind to ensure the paperwork matched the reality. You think surviving the isolation cell is the ultimate test. You believe that if you just remain quiet and compliant, you will eventually be released. You are entirely blind to the microscopic executioners breeding in the damp straw of your mattress. The true threat to your existence isn't the psychological torture. It is the inevitable lethal consequence of the overcrowding and how the bureaucrats handle the resulting bodies. The winter of 1892 hits the asylum. The ancient coal furnaces in the basement fail to heat the massive stone structure. The temperature inside the wards drops to near freezing. You are sleeping on a thin, soiled straw mattress, sharing a single wool blanket with 2 other coughing patients. The lethal overcrowding creates a perfect, highly efficient biological incubator. Mycobacterium tuberculosis and the sweeping wave of influenza tear through the weakened, malnourished population with absolute impunity. The patients are dying in the dark, their lungs filling with fluid, coughing up arterial blood onto the stone floors. The orderlies do not summon doctors for the dying. They simply wait for the coughing to stop and drag the bodies out by their ankles in the morning. You contract the fever. Your body, completely depleted from the meager diet of gruel and the intense psychological stress, has 0 biological defenses left. You die quietly in the middle of the night, entirely alone, staring at the peeling paint on the ceiling. You think death is the final chapter. You believe your passing will finally trigger the legal system. You assume a formal death certificate will be issued, bringing your name back into the official public record. You expect your body to be returned to your family, or at the very least, buried with a stone bearing your initials. You are entirely, tragically wrong. This is where the Victorian system shifts from medical negligence directly into a criminal institutional cover-up. The asylum superintendent faces a massive administrative crisis. The mortality rate this winter is staggering. Hundreds of patients are dead. If these numbers reach the local magistrates or the funding committees in London, the resulting scandal will prompt a massive government audit. The asylum will be exposed as a lethal warehouse, funding will be drastically cut, and the superintendent will lose his lucrative position. The bureaucracy requires a solution. They do not treat the disease, they sanitize the data. Your emaciated body is loaded onto a wooden cart. There is no funeral. There is no priest. You are driven to a large, flat, unmarked field at the very back edge of the asylum property. A massive, deep trench has been dug into the clay. You are unceremoniously dumped into the mass grave alongside 40 other anonymous, striped canvas bodies. The earth is pushed back over the hole. No stones are placed. No markers are carved. The grass simply grows back, leaving a flat, empty, green field. But the physical body is only half the problem. The paperwork remains. Late at night, the superintendent sits alone in the main archive room. He pulls your thick manila file. He looks at the medical intake form, the daily logs, and the evidence of your entirely avoidable death. He takes a heavy, brass ink stamp, presses it firmly into a pad of vibrant, thick red ink, and slams it down directly over your admission papers. Void. He does not file the folder away in the basement. He walks over to the heavy cast iron fireplace, burning in his office. He throws your entire medical history directly into the flames. The asylum officially reports a mysterious, unfortunate fire in the records wing that tragically destroyed decades of patient intake logs. The government accepts the excuse. The audit is canceled. The mortality numbers vanish into the ash. The state legally erased you in life by stripping your name, and now they have physically and bureaucratically erased your death. you are completely deleted from the human timeline. A ghost in the machine, killed by the exact medical bureaucracy society trusted to protect you. The tragic, horrifying reality of the Victorian psychiatric system is that it successfully, quietly erased millions of independent minds and inconvenient souls without firing a single shot. The doctors of 1890 walked through the crowded, freezing stone halls believing they were managing a theoretical mental illness, completely ignoring the fact that their bureaucratic machine was actively slaughtering their patients and burning the evidence. We look back at the 1890s and we shudder at the lack of transparency, the padded cells, and the mysterious archive fires. We feel incredibly secure in our modern world of digital medical records, stringent privacy laws, and highly regulated psychiatric oversight. We believe the era of the ghost patient is a dark relic of the past. But the physiological reality of institutional power has never stopped grinding. The massive red brick asylums have been torn down, but the fundamental desire to silence the inconvenient remains deeply embedded in the system. We no longer strip people naked and throw them into freezing, pitch-black padded cells. Instead, we chemically straitjacket them. We prescribe incredibly heavy, mind-numbing doses of modern synthetic antipsychotics and powerful sedatives, effectively locking the patient inside a pharmaceutical prison within their own skull until they become docile, compliant, and completely silent. We still use highly complex, constantly expanding modern diagnostic manuals to label, categorize, and heavily medicate the individuals who do not perfectly fit the fast-paced, rigid machinery of modern society. The heavy iron doors have been replaced by prescription pads, and the physical isolation has been replaced by chemical apathy. But the ultimate, terrifying goal of the institution remains exactly the same: total compliance. If you were locked inside the freezing stone walls of an 1890s asylum right now, fully sane but completely unable to prove it to the men holding the pens, what would you choose? Would you fight the orderlies every single day, screaming your name into the dark until your mind finally fractured? Or would you quietly close your eyes, accept the canvas smock, and wait to become a ghost in the archives? Answer carefully. The history of dark medicine is written entirely by the bureaucrats holding the matches, never by the patients holding the files. Make your psychological survival strategy known in the comments below. The archivista is logging your answers, and the superintendent is still tending to the fire. If you thought having your identity and your mind systematically erased by the state was the absolute worst the Victorian era had to offer, you truly have no idea what the elite class was actively doing to their own bodies. They didn't need the government to torture them. They willingly swallowed poison at the dinner table. Click the video on your screen right now to enter the bizarre, visceral, and highly toxic world of Victorian beauty diets, where swallowing a live monster was considered the height of high fashion. I'll see you in the archives.